Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's the first here on Mark Fisher Outdoors. I'm not a big fan of the whole Randy Blockett doing an episode while I'm driving, but it's a 12-hour drive to Lake Eufaula, and I'm about 11 hours into it, so I'm going to get her done here. Guys, the topic for today's episode is treating fishing like a sport. And I'm not talking about tournament fishing. I'm not talking about the intricacies of whether or not tournament fishing is a sport. I'm talking about you as a fisherman understanding that fishing is a sport and what you need to do to get better at it. So stick around. I think this is going to open some minds to some different ways of thinking about the sport that you love so much. Stick around, guys. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. So this comes up with a lot of the things that we've been talking about lately. We've been talking about teaching kids how to fish. We've been talking about loading your boat. We've been talking about skipping jigs, things like that. And these are techniques that are important in becoming a better fundamental fisherman. And one of the things that you just don't hear anybody talking about when it comes to fishing, you hear people talking about practice. Oh, I'm going out for 3 days of practice before I go to Eufaula. But when I'm talking about practice, I'm talking about a 3-day period of time to try and locate fish. What I'm talking about in today's episode is practicing fundamentals. And those fundamentals can be anything from casting and casting accuracy to skipping under docks to loading your boat or unloading your boat or backing up your trailer or any of the millions of things that we have to do in this sport. And guys, I just don't understand, if so many, I don't understand it. If you were on a softball team, it doesn't matter whether you were on say it's your local Wednesday night softball team where you just go and hit the ball around and end up, going out for beers afterwards. You still, at some point, there's some practice that goes in. Some of that practice might be just before the game, warming up. Maybe you do batting practice. It could be that your team meets every Monday and does, literally has a practice. But the point is, you practice those skills to become better, regardless of how important the outcome is. Like I said, it could just be your local Wednesday night league that you don't care too much because it's just really an excuse to hang out with the guys and go drinking after. But you still want to be better at the sport than you currently are. And if you want to get better, you have to practice. We preach this to kids all the time, and yet here we are as grown men, and we don't take that advice. If you want to get better at backing your boat straight in a straight line, go out and practice it. If you want to get better skipping docks, take an hour and instead of fishing, go out and practice skipping docks. You don't have to spend 8 hours. In fact, that's probably not the right way to do it. But if you want to get better at skipping docks, go out and spend an hour just skipping docks. Don't worry about catching fish. Just worry about skipping docks. If you want to get better at casting accuracy, go out in the backyard and cast. Or or I can tell you that one of the fortunate things that I had was I had a gymnasium at the school. And back in the day, I used to stand up on a box in the gym, and I used to practice pitching and flipping to coffee cans and to hula hoops and things like that. And I would sit there in the gym after hours and just sit there and do that. Granted, you'd get somebody who'd walk in and go, "Oh, did you catch anything?" And yeah, it's a little silly that you're sitting there practicing your pitching and flipping on a gym floor. And if someone sees you, it looks a little silly. But if our egos can handle that, the reality is you become better at it. And that's what you're trying to do. And I'll tell you what, those years of practicing that, when somebody sees me on the boat and they see the talent that I have when it comes to skipping or casting accuracy and things like that, that came from practice. That's what it came from. It doesn't come naturally, and it doesn't come without that practice. And it's a simple answer to a question that I get an awful lot. And the reality is, when we get out on the water, we want to spend time fishing. But we don't ever get better at those techniques when we don't practice them. And literally, guys, this can be applied to anything. Doesn't matter whether it's casting accuracy, driving with a boat, any of those things that have to do with this sport. So, guys, I know it's a quick, simple video, but one that my question is it something that you feel like is worth your time to get a little better at? So ask yourself that question, and you can send me some comments in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of the video. Please stick around tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.